Hey there, and welcome to my channel, Houston Gardener. Today we're going to just be talking about growing a cut flower garden in your backyard. If you're like me, I have fallen in love with the flower gardens that I see on Instagram and on YouTube, and more often than not, those are people who are doing it as like a flower farm, and I just don't have the space to do things on the same scale as them. So I just want to show you that you can have a cut flower garden in your backyard and be able to share bouquets with other people, and be able to pick flowers to put in a vase and enjoy inside your home. So I'm in my backyard and I'm showing you, this is my cut flower garden in the back, which I do mostly zinnias just because they grow so well and so freely and so long, in Houston, Texas, and we get very hot summers and they can withstand the heat. They do really well and they will keep on blooming until frost. Whereas anything else that might be like a spring flowering flower will bloom in early spring for us because we get warm a lot faster, and then they'll be done for the season. Zinnias just keep blooming all year round, and you can get multiple blooms from one plant. So that's why I do a lot of zinnias. This season, I also got this, I think it's Macarenia zinnia mix, and those are these beautiful blooms with these multicolors, and they just are so awesome to look at and such a great addition to the regular zinnias, which are these pink ones are Cupid's mix, and they're pink, orange, yellow, fuchsia, red. So it's a nice combination. So I'm super excited about that. I'm also doing some sunflowers that you can see. And the sunflowers that I bought are a dwarf variety, and they are also a multi-flowering sunflower. So as you can see, this tall one here has multiple sunflower buds on it, with the idea that I'm not just going to get one sunflower stalk, cut it, and be done. I should get multiple sunflowers on each, although that one's getting tall, so I'm going to have to stake that so it doesn't knock over if we get a storm. I do have some gladiolas back here. I planted some bachelor buttons as well, but they're taking a lot longer to develop. But the gladiolas I haven't really cut and used in a bouquet yet because they tend to bloom so quickly first, and everything else is kind of establishing itself once they bloom for the most part. But at some point maybe I'll have a designated gladiola area that I can just cut and use. Here's another one of those awesome zinnias that just looks so different. That one's a little older, needs to be deadheaded, but yeah, and the more you cut them and use them, the more they'll bloom. So pretty. So zinnias is a big staple, and I've already made a bouquet this year, which I'll pop in a picture of. That was my first bouquet of this season, which is pretty much all zinnias. There's a couple cosmos, but the stems are shorter, and I have those in the front flower bed. They're also doing well here. And then one dahlia, which I have more that are just waiting on blooms. So mostly zinnias in that one. Last year I did all zinnia bouquets, and they were beautiful. So the first step is really going to be finding what flowers are going to do best in your area, and doing a variety of flowers in terms of their bloom time, so that you'll have blooms every season and every month, until your frost in your winter, because that way you'll have a variety of flowers blooming, and you won't get to a point where you're kind of stagnant and nothing's really bloomed and ready to enjoy. So definitely look at what grows best in your area, what's annual versus a perennial in your area. Zinnias are annuals here, whereas a lot of flowers that don't do well with the frost are perennials here, where they're not up north, like the gladiolas come back every year. And that'll help kind of establish a garden too, because the perennials tend to bloom during a specific time frame versus the annuals can, like the zinnias, can bloom all season. So I have these. We can take my little guard dog over there in the corner. I see you. My little dahlias are here. I had to tie them up because we got a bad storm they were going to knock over. So I do have some buds ready to pop. They'll probably bloom in the next couple weeks at this stage. I had this one in the front I've already gotten 3 blooms off of. So I'm just waiting for more buds to pop out now that I've got those. And you can see one right there poking up. This one in the back has a couple buds. And then my one that I thought was stalled out is growing. So dahlias are a very beautiful addition to a cut flower garden, but you're definitely going to have to be very conscientious in terms of how they're going to do in your area and what they're going to need. In my zone, which is 9A, I do not need to necessarily dig them up to store them for the winter, whereas if you live in a colder climate that's going to have frost and snow, you're going to have to dig them up because they don't overwinter in the ground in those areas because of the weather. However, Houston's very wet, so this year I'll probably try to dig some up and store them so that they don't get soggy if we get a lot of rain in the fall and over winter and rot, in the ground, which is what happened to the ones that I left in my pots on my patio last year, is they just completely rotted over winter, even though I tried to overwinter them. So dahlias are another one that will bloom on all the way until frost, and you can cut them and they'll just keep making more blooms. And there's so many different varieties and colors. Also here we have very clay soil, so they're doing much better in raised beds versus planted in the soil. They're very prone to rot if they're sitting in moisture, and that's what they were doing last year. So definitely raised beds in my area. If you have a better soil that's well draining, then they'll do better in ground. So again, just knowing how flowers are going to do in your area for your weather and for your gardening zone. I'm in zone 9A, but dahlias are another great addition to cut flower gardens. And as you can see, I have, including the smaller one in the back, 5 in this one area that's probably 2.5 feet by 2 feet, and I'm going to get multiple blooms throughout the season. I have another section of dahlias up here, and it's kind of funny because they're all the same dahlia, but they're all different sizes. These are all cafe au lait dahlias, which is a very popular one. But I have blooms over here that are ready to pop in the next week and a half. Some blooms here, and I have my first cafe au lait bloom under here that is getting ready to completely open. And I do pinch my dahlias. The only one I didn't pinch is this first one on the left. But otherwise, I pinched all the others, and they're all still growing at different sizes, which is kind of funny. Get out from behind there, you silly girl. So dahlias are great. I do plan to, up here at the end of our property, put in 2 beds specifically for dahlias, 2 4x8 beds, so that I just have a designated spot for them. I'll probably still intersperse them with the other flowers and plants, but that way I have an area where they're gonna thrive, they'll get the sun, and then I can put this space back to use in terms of vegetables. The other thing I wanted to show you, we'll go through the patio here, is the herb bed. Uh-oh, my dog's about to start barking. So I'm showing you my herb bed because it's something that you just don't think of, but you can take a sprig of basil, dill, I have thyme, oregano, and rosemary. You can take sprigs of these herbs and add them to your bouquets as greenery and fillers when you make them and bring them in. It'll add more fragrance and some more greenery. So that's why I do bring you to my herb bed and just mention that. My other pot over here, and you can bring mint too. It's a good filler. This is milkweed, but these purple plants on the bottom are the southern version of snapdragons, because from what I've read, they don't do as well here. They're called angelonia, and they bloom continuously. They put up new sprouts and keep blooming, and they're also a good cut flower. They're perennial, so they'll come back every year. So that's why I just wanted to show you this and mention that as well. So just go to your local garden center. They're going to have stuff that does well in your area, and read the tags, do your research, and yeah, you can have a cut flower garden on any scale. I also have zinnias around my oak tree in the front. I planted more zinnias, cosmos, and bachelor buttons in my front flower bed. So even on a small backyard, I call it my backyard farm, you can have a cut flower garden that you can be able to share flowers with other people and be able to enjoy them inside. I hope this was informational, and I hope you enjoyed seeing what I have growing in my garden, and have a great day. Bye.